welcome to another episode of Two Friends Talking Trends, a podcast about marketing, PR, and everything in between. I'm the co-host, Pauline Barron.
And I'm Mike Pechenik, and we are excited to welcome yet another great guest to the show, Pauline. Today, We're going to be talking to Neil Gordon. He's a veteran journalist, author, and publisher. He started his career, just like I did, in TV news as a reporter and then worked his way up to news director. Today, he is publisher of the Augusta Business Daily, which is a business-to-business centric online publication. He's also author of a true crime book called Behind the Doors of Justice, The Murdaugh Murders, and he's currently penning a new book about the phenomenon of trial watchers. Full disclosure, we're working on this together, so if you want to learn more, go to trialwatchers.com. Neil, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you?
Oh, wonderful. And it's great to be able to work with you 25 years later after we first told a lot of good stories together.
That's amazing. Absolutely. It sounds like it. You guys are really cooking some interesting stuff. Would love to hear more about it. But yes, welcome, Neil. Please tell us a little bit about your journey and how did you get into journalism?
I was just always curious as a kid, and I always tried to study people who did very well in their craft. And I vividly remember when I was 9 years old listening to the Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier fight on the radio and listening to how it was described and theater of the mind. And it just, I was hooked right then, and went to school for broadcasting in Buffalo, New York, got a couple of great internships with a hockey team and also with a local CBS affiliate, made some great contacts, and then embarked on a 13-year career in TV news. And basically, I love to tell stories, and I love to peel the layer of the onion and learn why somebody has a story to tell and what their true story is. And by doing that and asking a lot of questions, I think you really kind of get to the heart of the matter. And I think that's the best way to tell stories, is through the heart.
Well, so Neil, as a publisher now and as a journalist, you do get your fair share of PR pitches, and this podcast is about PR and marketing and everything in between. So let's talk about that. What kinds of pitches do you get, and what is your criteria for covering a story that comes from one of these pitches you get?
Mike, I typically get about 100 pitches a month, 5 or 6 a day. And they're often research oriented. I give the agencies a lot of credit. They do their homework. They come up with lists, surveys, they check into facts, and then they try to tie it to their client, who is an expert in the XYZ industry. Very often, because of the era we live in, it's about staffing and outsourcing and things of that regard. Unfortunately, I'm a local business publication, and I don't even open them very often. As I grow, I may utilize some of their press releases to localize someone that is in our area where it may make sense. But what I really like, Mike and Pauline, is local, local, local. That's extremely important to me. And we have advertising agencies that are local to the Augusta area and really good marketing directors in our area that reach out and they try to pitch us on doing a good story.
All right. Well, so Neil, that's great. What advice do you give PR practitioners then who might be listening to this about some of the best practices they need to be employing when they're pitching media on covering a story, whether it's yourself, whether it's the New York Times, whether it's Court TV, doesn't matter, right?
No, it doesn't. I just think, and I've watched your podcast, the two of you together, and the spray and pray method doesn't work. You get so many pitches, and it just becomes noise after a while. So it just has to be kind of relevant. There are some of the national press companies that do reach out to me, and at least they mention Augusta Business Daily. And sometimes, particularly if they have, say, a franchisee in the area, they will introduce that person to us and ask us to maybe consider doing a story. And I do remember one, it was really perfect for Black History Month. It was a gentleman who's a minority who had been in the military for more than 20 years, and he does, I believe, home inspections. And it just worked because we have such a big military community and also African American population, and so we bid on that one. It checked our boxes.
Let's pivot a little bit, Neil, and talk about marketing, because you've also had, to do your fair share of marketing for your business. So if somebody who is listening to us right now, they have a small business or they have a small team, what advice do you have for them about the best way to market, their products and solutions using, obviously, PR and marketing? So where to start? Can you just give our folks a little bit of like a step-by-step or a roadmap to success to get started in marketing and PR?
Sure. I always believe that if you're going into business for yourself, it's very likely that you are an expert in your industry. And whatever you can do to either be a thought leader and provide information to the local media, because content is always king, or sometimes it makes sense to create your own event. And by creating your own event, you're getting face to face and interacting with your ideal customers. They're getting to know you as the expert. You're sharing information, whether it's a conference, it may be a webinar, and everyone is getting together in a room, and you're kind of thought of in a different light, and it's another touch point without selling. And so I believe if you can try to be an expert and utilize the different kinds of mediums to do that, I think you'd be very successful.
Yeah, that is really a good point. Let's talk a little bit about then the channels that you have used in the past, beyond just press releases, right? Because that's what people, when you hear PR, that's what people go to, press releases and pitches to reporters. So how can we combine marketing efforts in the digital world with the PR, efforts? Just talk to us a little bit about that, different formats, different channels that can be utilized and, to be successful.
Well, nowadays, with Facebook, it's amazing how many very niche targeted groups there are and chat rooms there are. And when I co-authored the book Behind the Doors of Justice, it was so interesting that I noticed that there were more than 10 or 15 groups very targeted to the subject matter I was dealing with, which is the Murdoch family in South Carolina. So I joined all of the groups, and I began to interact with them, and then I began to put excerpts of the book. And then after that, began to put some pictures in there. And then I started to mention that, hey, we're writing this book and you're welcome to pre-order a copy as well. And it was just over time, it really took hold and it really helped with sales. So I would encourage everyone to check on the X, formerly Twitter, check on Facebook. LinkedIn is just invaluable, I believe, particularly if you're in the B2B space.
That is great, Neil. Really great information. And I know that utilizing all of these different channels and, different assets will certainly help companies to increase awareness in sales. If we go down to more like B2B companies, that's pretty much the bulk of our audience here. They are interested in telling a story, right? But at the same time, they are also interested in selling. So do you have any tips on how to combine PR and marketing, how to combine the storytelling that is compelling enough to be able to generate business?
Yeah, I think it goes back to trying to be an expert or trying to be the eyes and ears for the rest of the business community. We're all busy and we can't get to every single networking event or chamber of commerce function. So I would recommend, if you're someone that works in business and you're trying to do business with other leaders, go there, take a picture, write up even a one paragraph summary of what you learned, what information you could impart to your LinkedIn audience or your business Facebook page or on Twitter. It's a great photo op. It's a great way to mention your company. It's just a great way to put yourself out there in a non-selling way, although you are soft selling yourself. And I think over time, if you hang in there and you do that repeatedly, you'll develop your own brand and awareness. And I think it will really help move the needle in whatever business that you're in.
It's about the thought leadership, right? You positioning yourself as the leader in creating and building that authority. But what if companies, they can't afford to wait to see the results? What would be some very specific express things, let's put it that way, that companies can start doing to get short-term results?
I love the blog aspect. I think it's fantastic to develop a following. I remember as Mike transitioned from not only the television station into a PR role and then finally into the Pechenik Media Group, I was really interested in what he had to say and lessons that he learned on the other side in the media. And I think you can do that again by being a thought leader. And maybe it's just a blog. And maybe it is if you're in uh, the technology space, you do a tech tip of the week kind of thing, or you tie something to your industry and develop a following and share it. And again, that really doesn't cost any money. And then when you do have some money, places like Augusta Business Daily may be a good distribution point in which you can share your information very inexpensively and reach a targeted audience, even more than what you may have through your social media channels.
Neil, if anybody wants to find you, where should they reach out?
Well, a couple of different ways. Again, we have a B2B online publication. Our website is augustabusinessdaily.com. And then again, as you mentioned, Mike and I are partnering on a brand called Trial Watchers, and you can go to trialwatchers.com and we'll have a book that'll be coming out and some podcasting and also a video series as well. So we're going to test some of the ideas that you have, Pauline, about repurposing content. I agree with you completely.
I am interested, though, in talking about the Trial Watcher project because it's such an odd and bizarre thing, right? For humans to do that and just follow nonstop and leave their cities and their towns and their families and their jobs to really follow this. So, can you talk to us a little bit about why did you decide to do that project and what have you been learning about the human, psychic and like how does the psychology works that, and that's what we do as human beings.
Well, my wife was the first trial watcher that I ever met. She went to the Alex Murdaugh trial and she was just fascinated by it. And I learned that she had a few whys in the reasons that she attended it. One, she was interested. Two, she felt compassion for family members of the victims. And then I learned, and I've been married to her now almost 17 years. And then I learned that it kind of brought her back to a time before we met when she attended the trial of her aunt's husband. And so everybody kind of has a different reason for why they want to go. And some of it is just the phenomenon, Pauline, of being an internet sleuth, wanting to put the puzzle together on what may or may not have happened, and just being really passionate and engaged. And I talked about Facebook groups and chat rooms, and that's an outlet. That's just an outlet for people to just kind of get things off their chest that may not even necessarily have directly to do with that particular trial. And I know Mike and I have been collaborating on it. And when we first talked about it, he said, "Oh yeah, what this is really about is people that put their lives on hold." And I thought that was pretty astute, Mike.
Yeah, that's so true, Neil. I mean, the first folks that we met, right? They drove 2.5, 3 hours, got to the courthouse at 3 o'clock in the morning, and waited in line for 5 hours to get in the door. I mean, that is truly putting your life on hold, and then going to Walmart to buy clothes because he didn't want to go home that night. So, and they of course have an interesting why too, that their father was murdered, 30 plus years ago, and so they go to these trials to seek the justice that they were not able to obtain as a family.
Well, we all have been fascinated by Taylor Swift and her concerts and the craze that it has erupted into, and how the fans have traveled to different cities. And it's not unlike this. People we talked to were at first a little bit sheepish about acknowledging that they traveled to visit these trials, but they equate it to, instead of spending my money and traveling, to go see the Dave Matthews Band, I really want to go to Idaho to see the Brian Kohlberger trial and be there. And what a lot of people don't know, and I didn't know, is, hey, like with the media, it's free press, it's open to the public, and anybody can really be a trial watcher if they're interested in it. And for some, it's a way of socializing, and it's a way of having a little bit of relaxation and learning instead of reading a book or watching a podcast. So I think it's becoming a little bit more of the norm.
Well, thank you so much, Neil. This has been a really great conversation, and I'm sure the folks listening in were enjoying as much as we were. So happy to have you here. Hope to have you back sometime soon.
Yeah, you've got it, Pauline. Nice to meet you.
Same. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us on Two Friends Talking Trends. We will see you next time.
We'll see you next time.